somebody know exactly what it is that we are about to do today. So these are the 9 non-negotiables that are critical for every relationship, you all. So y'all join on in. I'm Dr. G.O. White. This is the Dr. G.O. White Show. They call me the TikTok Doc. And all that simply means that I'm using this time in this moment to talk a little bit about healthy relationships, talk a little bit about fatherhood, talk a little bit about marriage, talk a little bit about if you are thinking about getting engaged. These are the 9 things that we have to take a look at. Now, I'm going to throw these out, and then I'm going to double back, and I'm going to talk about each one of these, what I call the 9 non-negotiables. So let me give them to you, and then we're going to jump through, and you all let me know if these are issues that are even important for you. So here are the 9 non-negotiables, right? And then we're going to jump into it. Number 1, handling rejection, right? That is rejection without collapse, right? I'm giving y'all these because these are things, when I jump into them, I want you to take a closer look. Number 2, handling correction, right? Correctable, but not combative, right? So how we handle correction, right? Number 3, handling pressure. You know, they say pressure busts pipes, but pressure also is what builds and creates diamonds. But some people don't handle pressure very well. And we're going to look at how this impacts and shows up in your relationships, on the job, in your marriage. So we have to pay a closer attention to how we handle the pressure. I call it pressure without projection, right? That means that you get the pressure and you put that pressure on someone else. Number 4, understanding emotional intelligence, right? So this is the Dr. G.O. White Show, and we're going into these 9 critical characteristics. And ladies, hey, Jana, I see you. Glad to have you on. I'm going to move through these because these are all some things that we got to let our sons and we got to let our daughters understand, these 9 critical characteristics. So this one here is just emotional intelligence. We're going to talk about what it is. We're going to talk about how it shows up. But the next one is my favorite one. And I'm going to tell you, Drew, this one is knowing that there's a right way and a wrong way to be wrong. Let me say that again. There's a right way and a wrong way to be wrong. So y'all tell somebody, bring somebody in right now. Say, wait a minute, Dr. White is about to jump on these characteristics and going to move them through, because some of y'all, I'm going to tell you, Will, you might have to take an inventory of how this shows up. Willie Cole, take a look at what I'm about to jump on. So there's a knowing that there's a right way and a wrong way to be wrong. So, and that means owning it without excuses. Number 6, taking responsibility, doing your part. Now, I'm going to throw this in here, right? If the Negro keeps saying, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, at some point, take him at his word. He's sorry as hell. All right. So anyway, taking responsibility is absolutely critical. That's number 6. Number 7, taking accountability. Now, Alex, I need you all to understand this one. This is kind of tricky, because just because you apologized and just because the person accepted your apology does not mean, this is where I'm going, it does not mean that all is forgiven. So because someone has accepted your apology, we have to take a look at it, because accountability means that there still may be consequences that come with that. So I'm going to accept your apology, but I'm good with you, right? Number 7 is accountability. We did it. Number 8, understanding integrity, being the same person in every situation. Again, you all, when we go into this, Bonnie, I'm saying that these are some things that I want you all to take inventory of the person you're dating. These are some things, even if you're married, you might say that these are some things that I need to work on. And finally, number 9, having discernment, knowing when, why, and how. Spiritual discernment, but the notion of discernment is absolutely critical. So these are the 9. These are the 9 non-negotiables that I'm arguing that are absolutely critical. So you all tell somebody to log on, tell someone to jump in so you can take a look at what I'm going to touch on this. I'm the TikTok Doc. This is an opportunity for a session around some of these issues that may be impacting your own relationships. So let's get some more people on. Anthony, glad to see you back, Doc. Glad to see you. We're going to jump into this. This is going to be a good piece here. Anthony, I'm looking for your comments. Tay, pay attention to this. If you know someone in a relationship who may be having some difficulties, what I'm about to give you all on this evening is going to definitely set the tone and create an understanding. So let's go into this, right? So again, everything I'm sharing, go to my YouTube channel, like, share, subscribe, so you can get these in more details, and the ebook that's coming out that's going to touch a little bit more on these. But let's take a look at this very first one, handling rejection. You know, one of the most difficult things that I've come across in people who struggle with rejection, they can hear, but the challenge is that someone comes, they approach them, they don't like the response. But this, you know what, let me do it this way. Go back to when some of y'all was younger and you go up at a party, you ask a young lady to dance and she turned you down. And then when she turns you down, you end up saying something that for all intents and purposes is not very flattering because you didn't like the way she responded. So some of us take rejection very difficult. Even on the job setting, you get a performance improvement plan, and now all of a sudden it's difficult. So rejection, it produces shame, it reduces anger, withdrawal, and even for some men, this notion of hypermasculinity. What the hell in with you, right? So some people are socialized to interpret rejection as a threat to their manhood or to their womanhood, rather than rejection being a normal part of the experience. And so rejection is critical. And not only that, right, the emotional shutdown. Some people, when they get rejected, they shut down, right? Or they may become somewhat aggressive or even engage in avoidance, lose the courage to move forward after that. So rejection can be a very difficult thing. So the question I want to ask, Elizabeth, glad to have you on. I want to ask this question here. Do you tend to take it personal when you get rejected? Do you tend to take it personal, right? I'm okay with the rejection. It will be all right. I like that, and I think that's a good thing, right? Jay-Z said, dust your shoulders off. But what happens here, you know, when you do this rejection, is it that rejection, is it one of those things where you began to feel some type of way? Do you maybe find yourself questioning whether or not you were worthy? It's a good question. And so Q Templar, what about you? How do you handle rejection? Do you take it? Do you receive it? Is it problematic? So let's take a look at that. Or even a better question, who taught you how to handle rejection when you're growing up? Or what did it look like? It's a good question here, but that rejection piece, I'm going to tell you, anybody who is in theater knows that your life is filled with more no's, 100 more no's than you get to the yeses. But if you can't handle that rejection, then it becomes problematic. I like this Q Templar 357. I see what you're saying, Square. All right. Here we got the time because I'm not going anywhere else to get it. So paying attention to it, you all. This piece here, you know, Brother Templar, I'm with you on that 3, that 5, and that 7. And some folks are joining. I want to give a shout out. I see them coming on now to my good brothers of W.C. Thomas Lodge, number 112, Most Worshipful Prince Hall, Grand Lodge of Georgia. Good to see you brothers popping in, all right? So Anthony says, might have helped with rejection. My parents split when I was young. So you see it. When we began to see it, those issues show up. So handling and dealing with rejection, I'm helping you all understand how critically important it is, because that rejection, when it does show up and how we internalize the rejection, becomes problematic. So you all tell someone to come on in, get someone involved in this discussion. It's important to kind of take a look at this here. So this is the Dr. G.L. White Show. I'm Dr. G.L. White, TikTok Doc, for this moment to have some important conversations. Now, incidentally, rejection, when you really began to think about it, there's some theories, Tanya, that kind of deals with this. Attachment theory, right? Early rejection leads to avoidance and anxious behavior. So some people dealing with or getting hit with rejection early can be problematic. Good to see you, Brother Cooper. Glad to have you on. Shame also begins to set in for folks who don't handle rejection very well. But I like to say, really, from an Afrocentric perspective, what we do as therapists and from a cultural perspective, really, is that we understand that identity is communal. And so we are saying that rejection is something that is literally a part of life. It's a part of the character building process. But not everybody handles rejection very well. You know, there are a lot of people right now who are in jail because they did not accept the no. And there are a lot of people who stop pursuing their dreams and hopes. Why? Because we see that the issue is that they struggle with rejection. So rejection is a very important piece that we want to learn to study. We want to learn to have really some important understanding, even within the realm of family conflicts. Rejection can escalate to violence. So this is what I'm going to recommend. Richard, I'm going to tell people, normalize rejection as feedback, not a part of your identity. That's the first thing about rejection, right? And again, if you have young men, young women, you have a mentoring program, you need to build into these curriculums of scenarios and situations so that we can assess and see this character building trait around how to handle rejection. Teach emotional labeling and distress tolerance. It's another recommendation. So why does, now Brother Templar says, why does rejection affect people in such a negative way? Good question, Brother Templar. I think, again, it goes back to some of our earlier years, how we handled rejection, how we exposed to it, how we were taught to process it. This is why being present in our children's lives is so important, teaching them, and sports, because even within the realm of learning sports, we began to understand that. But some people, I like to put a lot of it connecting to their early childhood and how they handled rejection. And so, again, as Jay-Z said, and I love the way he put it, why we must learn to dust our shoulders off. But rejection is critical here because it increases emotional resilience. It helps improve our relational stability. Being told no is not an assault on your character or your personality. So anyone else, how did you handle rejection? Do you have difficulty handling rejection? Or better yet, do you know somebody who struggles with rejection? Yes, Brother Jones, rejection does make you strong. It's a character building trait, but not the rejection itself, but observing literally how they handle it, how they, whether or not they have that resilience or that ability to bounce back. So the rejection is very important, and I'm going to tell you all that rejection is absolutely critical to our character and our emotional development. That's number one. But the second one, and this is very interesting, handling correction. Now, I've come to learn that some people, they literally don't do a good job of being corrected. Some folks, they get triggered when someone tries to correct them. They become defensive, they withdraw, they have a low affect, meaning they get corrected and begin to feel some type of way, physical posturing, and even within the realm of that ego. So correction is a very interesting thing. And think about this, you all. I've said this before. 85% of the people in your circles got your best interest at heart, right? 85% of the people in your circle got your best interest at heart. That means that about 15% of the people either got their best interest at heart or they don't have yours. Templar says, can rejection be identified as a divorce? If so, how should one navigate through that process? I think I understand what you're saying here. I'm gonna back up, make sure I get it. Can rejection be identified as a divorce? If so, how should one navigate through that process? Well, or determine how not to be rejected. That's a good piece here. But Brother Templar, I'm going to say that rejection is something that there's no workaround. And what I'm emphasizing here is that rejection literally is a part of human life. So we can't really get along with that. Keep up. What's going on, cuz? So we pay attention to these pieces here. So therefore, we have number one, dealing with rejection, and this one, focusing on correction. I used to be that way. I see the Jones, but now I just listen to everyone. Doesn't mean that that they think they're right, but I like that. We do learn to listen, but correction, and here's a good piece I want y'all to pay attention to. If people are hesitant about correcting you, again, the people that got your best interests at heart, if they are hesitant about correcting you, meaning making it right, and therefore, if the smoke comes, that some people will say, I ain't gonna say nothing. Shit, you try to tell him something, and then come the smoke. So if people are hesitant about being honest with you, right? Because what follows their honesty with you is that how you come after them psychologically, emotionally, or physically becomes problematic. Here's what I mean. Some people, when you try to correct them, and remember, the concept of correcting simply means that you possess the correct information. They might have gotten something wrong and you're providing them with another perspective. But if their defense mechanism is that kind of intense that you try to say something to them, then the smoke comes, and what follows then becomes problematic is they escalating the conflict, right? Inability to learn how to grow. And so it becomes problematic if the people correcting something they say are doing the same. The pie card. Oh, I like that. So what Brother Jones is saying, if you're doing the same thing, how you gonna correct me? Well, I'm gonna tell you all about correcting. I told my dad's 85. I once told my father, because he'd always say, do as I say, not as I do. And I told my dad, I'm like, Dad, it's kind of hypocritical because you telling me something that you're not doing. And for many years, well into my adulthood, I thought that was the most hypocritical thing. And then I realized this. When my dad said to me one day, he said, son, what I'm telling you, I'm not there yet either. It's something I got to get there too, but that doesn't make it not right because I'm not there. So right is still right, regardless of whether the person who said it is there. And that kind of made me kind of pause. But the handling correction is very, very difficult, right? So when someone, here's my question. When someone corrects you, do you listen to them? Do you literally listen to them when they're trying to correct you? So let me hear from you. I'm Cindy. When someone corrects you, do you listen to them? How does that go when they're correcting you? Or do you start explaining yourself? Good question. Absolutely. Okay. Someone else. When you're being corrected, is it difficult to listen? Now, here is a disclaimer. I will say this, though. Here's my disclaimer, though. It also has everything to do with the way that people are correcting you. And so you all tell someone to join in. Tell someone to log in. Tell someone to come and get this good meat and get this good fruit. Dealing with correction. Right now, we're talking about how we handle correction. And so be honest. Is it difficult for people to give you feedback? Right? I like that, Brother Tipler. Listen more than you talk. Absolutely. What did they say on Hamilton? Talk less, smile more. Absolutely. I think it's a very important part here. Sandra, tell me, for you, is it difficult for someone to correct you? How do you respond? May, do you have an issue when someone tries to correct you? So I'd love to hear your responses there. what does that look like? Is it difficult to be corrected? Right? So these correction pieces are very, very difficult because some folks, they will emotionally penalize you. Right? So here's how you know that you might have some issues with correction. That means I have to correct you. And I did it out of love because 85% of the people in your life got your best interest at heart. But here's the problem. When they correct you, now all of a sudden, for the next 2 weeks, I'm trying to hit you up, trying to hit my boy up, and now I can't hear from him, right? For the next 2 weeks, you're now all of a sudden emotionally withdrawn. So it becomes an issue. Templar says it may depend on who you are talking to or what they're talking about. I like that. It is difficult. And this is what's connected to these other characteristics, because if you don't have the integrity or you don't have the discernment, then the good knowledge or the good information that someone needs to hear from you will run the risk of being lost because of your own. But that does not make the information they give you wrong. And so let's pay attention to these pieces here. So handling correction is absolutely a challenge. Again, y'all, I'm calling these 9 non-negotiables, right? These are 9 non-negotiables. Now, y'all take a little walk with me on this here. That difficulty handling correction is also connected to our ego, right? Y'all have all heard about the ego by Freud, and we have these kind of understandings, and some people say I don't have an ego, but let's just do a quick correction here, that having an ego is not bad. Having an ego or a strong ego is important. Why? Because if any of y'all remember your Psychology 101 course here, right? Freud talked about you have the ego, and then at the top you have the superego, which is that moral part of you that deals with that guilt. And then you have at the bottom this thing called the id, or your impulses, right? Your passion. And so the role of that ego is to be the mediator between those two things. If you got a weak superego, then you don't have the ability to make that discernment. You give into your feelings. So handling rejection, dealing with correction is absolutely important here. Y'all come and get this. This is the Dr. Gio White Show, and I'm walking us through these 9 negotiables. Again, let me just say this. These are some things on the checklist, brothers, as you're getting to know this young lady. On the checklist, sister, things you need to observe in this brother. Right now, it's saying, how does he handle correction? Does she withdraw? Does she take it personal? Does she get into her feelings? So handling correction is very important. I like that. Green flags and red flags. A good point, Anthony. So that correction is, and observing how they handle it and how they do it or respond to it, I think is very important. So that means a flip side of this rejection here is paying attention to whether or not they have what we refer to as the resilience, and that ability to kind of bounce back, to have another perspective, and more importantly, to receive what it is that they're saying. So take a look at it. How do you handle correction? Mr. Exactly, how do you handle correction? I'm curious. Y'all done logged on, Joshua. How do you handle correction? Is it difficult? These are things, again, I'm going to always hold that are absolutely important about these emotional development here. So again, where we fall short in these, what I'm saying is that these are some things that we got to work to build in. Brother Jones, I'm going to say moving it from a red flag to a yellow flag to a green flag. So we're trying to move all these to green flags. But a lot of people struggle with being corrected. A lot of people in relationships, because of all the emotional baggage that is accumulated in that relationship, now your mate, your spouse can't correct you. And so let's pay attention to that. So that's number 3. Number 2, handling correction. So the first one, if y'all missed it, the first one is dealing with rejection. These are the 9 emotional non-negotiables. The first was dealing with rejection. The second was how they handle correction. And I like that as a critical piece here in our emotional development. But number three is, and there's really, when we talk about handling pressure or dealing with pressure, or the pressure, like I say, without the projection, how we handle pressure is something that is very critical. We lose people because they can't handle pressure. We see relationships end because all hell begins to break loose and people bounce. And so we have to pay attention to how we began to handle that pressure. So here's my first question. When it gets heavy in life, when all hell is breaking loose, how do you handle it? So Mike Malone, how do you handle those issues, right? Trust the process. Incidentally, I love that as a heading. Trust the process. Here's the process for you. How do you handle pressure when it gets heavy? Do you shut down? Do you become talkative? Do you become confrontational? So y'all tell me, how do y'all handle pressure? Happens in all aspects, even in faith. Absolutely, we've seen that several. We've definitely seen that several times. But this pressure thing is that when we talk about having the type of faith that we're supposed to have, we began to see that when certain people are under pressure, or another way to put it, when they are tested, some people fail the test because soon as things got a little difficult. Now, this is one of the things, you all, I love about having our children in sports events, right? Why? Because sports events are filled with rejection. Sports events are filled with correction. And what we're looking at right now, sports events is also filled with the pressure. I like that. You can't fold, keep trucking. Well, you're right, but we have some people that is a struggle, and we have to really begin to take a look at how this pressure, how it shows up in relationships. And so what I'm saying is that when that pressure kicks in, some men leave relationships, some parenting relationships, dynamics change because of pressure. So you lost your job, right? And so now all of a sudden there's pressure that begins to show up in the marriage, right? So, one of these events here, we're going to talk about really what those marriage vows, what they really look like, how they really show up. And y'all talking to somebody who has been with his college sweetheart, been married 32, going on 33 years, 37 years together. I'm telling you, as Paul said, I've learned to be a base and I've learned to be abound. So that means I've learned to have everything abound, and I've learned to be a base, have very little. But how do you handle pressure when things are going wrong in your marriage? So that's the question. It's one thing to handle pressure when it's on you, but what happens when that pressure, something has happened and now it's had an impact in the marriage? That means somebody lost their job. So how y'all handle that when someone's lost a job or a health issue has kicked in? We see a lot of marriages, and some of you are therapists on here. You've seen people come to counseling after there's been a sharp change in the financial status. And what we see is, soon as that change happens, then here comes the stress and the tension. And next thing you know, in the relationship, they're eating at each other. So we take a look at it. Anthony says, with my ex-wife, when we had pressure, I wanted to talk it out, right? So some people respond differently to pressure, right? And certainly one of the best things that you just said there, Anthony, is absolutely important. Teaching the difference between correction and condemnation. So let me just kind of pause on this communication point here, is that good communication is you're educating someone on an issue that they have. Y'all remember, we're talking about correction and the challenges in relationships when people don't like or can't handle correction. But that does make a difference if I'm telling you something that's designed to make you better, but the way I'm telling it, then the message gets lost. So that's what we say, correction without the condemnation, right? And so this is why I'm going to tell you the square root of many issues in relationships. The great issues and the challenges are connected to how we communicate when problems began to occur. So under correction, let me give you all this. Y'all write this down, right? The three biggest lies that we tell ourselves is that I'm going to let it ride, I'm going to let it slide, and I'm going to let this shit go. Here's the reality. We don't let it ride, we don't let it slide, and we don't let it go. What we do is we store it. Y'all, I'm going to touch on this on every TikTok live because I needed to resonate. Those unresolved issues, because we said we was going to let it ride, we said we was going to let it slide, we said we was going to let it go, but we didn't. We stored it on the emotional shelf, and we waited for another opportunity to bring it down. So handling correction is very important. So let me hear, how do you handle correction? How do you handle pressure in this one here? Or tell me a situation where you were under a lot of pressure and how you handled it. What is a scenario that you ran into that you found yourself under a great deal of pressure and how you handle it? And as you all type, I'm going to tell you, practice receiving feedback without immediate response. Y'all just keep that under mind here, right? Is that when someone's trying to, when there's a lot of pressure and things that are taking place and someone's trying to communicate something to you, I'm going to tell you, practice receiving the feedback without immediate response, right? These pieces here, forever, I'm going to emphasize that are absolutely critical. So many people are underdeveloped emotionally when it comes with it, right? The pressure builds up, the stress takes over, anger explodes, then now there's a conflict or an issue that has began to occur. So we see a cycle that takes place when people who are struggling to deal with pressure, and that cycle is very important. So how do you all handle it? Encourage more communication. I like that. So you all get somebody on, get someone on, bring people on. This is the Dr. G.O. White Show. Tell them to tune in. I'm identifying these nine non-negotiable emotional negotiables. These are things I'm saying that in your relationships, if you're dating someone, I'm saying these are some things that must exist. We started with dealing with rejection. We then started talking about correction. And now we're looking at this thing called how we handle pressure in relationships and individuals. What does that look like? Anthony says, I used to be an angry person. I learned to let it go, not the end of the world. And no, that's right. That's really what we began to do when it comes to the pressure, because there are a lot of things, you all, we have no control over, right? Pressure can be anything, you all. Anything that makes you feel overwhelmed, that makes you feel trapped. Pressure can be anything that makes you feel disrespected or out of control, right? So these are some things when we began to really understand how pressure works. Now, there's some common parts here, right, that we see in your relationships. Money problems causes pressure, right? You got to go through the stuff to get through the stuff. I like that. You got to go through it to get through it. Excellent point there, right? People lost their job, pressure. Relationships and arguments, pressure. Feeling blamed or judged, pressure. Past traumas, pressure. Y'all, we're going to have to talk about these triggers and how they show up, right? Feeling like you're failing as a parent or a partner. These are things that how pressure shows up. And so, right, pressure doesn't make someone violent in some of these hostile relationships. How pressure is handled does. Pressure does not make you curse and yell and show up and act a fool, but how we handle it is, right? Resentment is not good. You're absolutely right. So this is the pressure. I'm just kind of curious. How do you handle pressure? How does it show up? Is there a time that you found yourself dealing with pressure? How did you work through it? I'm very kind of curious here, right? Because this pressure part, I'm saying that you're dating someone and you're getting to know someone. This pressure part, you may not see it until an emergency or a crisis occurs in the family or the situation. And that's part of the relating phase. Y'all heard me talk about that last week, that when we start really trying to understand how pressure shows up and how people respond under pressure, it is a critical element of someone's character that you really need to get to understand. Remember last week, I was talking about dating, mating, and relating. And I was saying relating is the one thing that cannot be rushed. We have to understand it. Good to see you, Sheba Haston. Glad to have you on. How do you handle pressure? How do you deal with it? And even if you have children, how are you teaching your kids, your nieces and nephews about dealing with pressure? Or, and I know I'm hitting y'all with a bunch of questions, just answer them. Do we teach our sons about pressure differently than the way we teach our daughters to handle pressure? That's a good gender-based question. Do y'all teach your sons and daughters about pressure differently? Or better yet, should it be handled differently? That's something to take under consideration, because pressure is pressure, right? And so we see all of these issues in our relationships, in our jobs, in high conflict situations. We saw it growing up. Some of us saw pressure result in someone leaving the family. So understanding how pressure works and where did you learn how to deal with pressure, I think is absolutely important. I see my sister has joined. Hey, April. So pressure becomes something that's, I think that's that is my sister. I think it's good to see how pressure is handled and how we deal with pressure in relationships. That if you got premarital counseling, or you do what I always tell people to do, you go into counseling for maintenance, communication maintenance, intimacy maintenance, conflict maintenance. This is why I'm always telling people that why you are to take advantage of going to therapy or counselor. You all need it, because these are the things that we need in the area of improving our relationships. To be able to talk about the issues around pressure makes a big difference. I see you, sis. Love you. Right? So these are the parts here, because we recognize that learning to deal with pressure is a critical in the emotional, the parts of emotional development that we see. I taught my son to deal with it, and no one's going to help. Right? I help my daughter be okay with whatever is wrong. Pressure, again, you all, when we're in those areas of understanding how that pressure shows up in our lives is important. So let me just kind of give you all a little few things. If you're dealing with pressure, here's some things that I want to bring to your attention, how you know that pressure may be a little heavy on you, right? So what it means, the stress puts on the body. So there's some physical things that happens when pressure occurs. Heart race, right? Tight chest, right? Clenched fist, breathing hard. These are all the physiological things different. Anthony says he thinks men deal with pressure differently, easier. Oh, wait a minute. Hold on. Anthony says that he believes that men deal with pressure much better or easier than women. Now I'm wondering, that's a good question. Do men handle pressure better than women? I'm kind of curious about that. I didn't ask that question. Anthony did. I didn't make that statement. Anthony did. Right? Anthony's just really believe that men handle pressure easier. Less feelings. The argument. So, are you saying, Anthony, that women are more emotional, so they don't handle pressure as well? I want to make sure I know where you're going. Not putting words in your mouth. But the pressure part, I think, is absolutely critical. People react before thinking. When people are under pressure and they don't take the time, it becomes problematic. Anthony says the thing with men is that they're preoccupied with fixing it. And one of the challenges I'm going to offer up, though, Anthony, is that there's some things that are too big for us to fix. So sometimes that pressure can become problematic when we refuse to accept that it might take someone else to help us, right? So what goes wrong when the stress or handle the pressure when it's not dealt with? And I'm just going to offer these things up, right? Anger controls our behavior. Communication breaks down. Arguments can even turn physical. Children can get scared. Relationships fall apart. So there's a lot to be said as it relates to understanding pressure. So these are some recommendations on this one here. Slow the body down. Take deep breath. When you're under pressure, sometimes you just got to center yourself, right? Sometimes it means taking a time out when we're in conflict. Check your thoughts. Learn to ask yourself, am I assuming the worst, right? Is this worth ruining my life or my day, right? So a lot of times when the conflicts occur under pressure, then we turn on one another as opposed to calming down and taking a deep breath. So we see correction, rejection. We see correction. We also see in there dealing with pressure. Just really the issue of pressure. So you can't always control the stress that comes from pressure, but you can control how you respond to that stress. So this becomes something that's very important. So calm yourself, center yourself, recognizing that pressure is just a part of the process. But in relationships, the moment you start turning on each other, it becomes problematic. And so I'm going to recommend a couple things to improve how we handle pressure, right? Teach pressure management skills, right? And take and learn some skills around, right? Normalize the struggle as a developmental process. Understanding that pressure is just part of the process, right? Build what I call incremental responsibility. One of the issues that people have with pressure is they take on too much and then they put too much on their plate. And then this is pressure that they've created. So I'm going to tell you all that take a look at all the stuff on your plate. And then you make a decision on what part of that stuff that you put on your plate. So I'm going to say this, Elizabeth, if you put it on your plate, you can take it off your plate. Now, we might make ourselves believe that it's hard to take something off plate, but we know that if there's a family emergency, it don't matter what you got going on in your life. If there is a crisis, then here's what we do know. You are going to jump up and you're going to take everything off that plate to deal with that particular crisis. So you all be mindful of that, right? Some folks don't know that the issue is not between, it comes from other issues. I think I know what you mean, but you got to double back on that a little bit with me. Help me understand. Let's see here. How we handle that correction is very important. So you all, the next one of this, and remember, y'all, I'm giving you things and I'm saying that I need you all to study and to understand, take inventory within yourself. Y'all, listen, I know some of y'all looking through this, but I'm just saying, write these down and investigate them with yourself. Dealing with rejection, handling correction, dealing with pressure. These pieces are very important. And so then we make ourselves to understanding this thing called emotional intelligence. So what does emotional intelligence mean? What is emotional intelligence? Wait a minute. Hold on. Mike says, like when the marriage stand together strong against issues instead of each other. You're right. In marriage, especially in a healthy relationship, and this is just Anthony doubling back, in a healthy relationship, when conflict and the pressure occurs, that is literally supposed to be the time that you began to come together. But again, like I said, people enter relationships. And these are some of those things on this checklist. I got a whole checklist of things you have to take inventory of to understand. And inventory means you got to observe, not what the person tells you, but you got to observe how some people that you have an interest in and how they're handling pressure. But we're at emotional intelligence right now. And emotional intelligence means reading the room, right? Do you recognize the emotions of your friends and others in real time, right? Do you have the ability to determine when your friends are going through something? So let me ask you this. Can you tell when one of your friends are going through something? That's the question I'm asking. Can you tell when one of your friends are going through something? Can you recognize it? When I say in real time, I mean that literally means you can see something in their voice and their tone. Can you recognize your friends are going through something? Can you recognize your spouse is going through something or having a bad day? Can we catch it? Can you catch it within yourself? Right? So emotional intelligence in its most basic terms, here's what it means. You are aware of your own emotions and how your emotions impact other people. And at the same time, you are aware of other people's emotions. Here's what that means. That means that I may be able to talk to Damien, come at Damien one way and talk with Damien about an important issue one way. But when it comes to Templar, I have to change the way because I understand that both of them receive information differently. So that's understanding in that process. Can you speak on where you are when you meet a person will not be where they will remain? Absolutely. People evolve. But Templar, what I'm saying here is that that's part of the relating phase, getting to know someone. Yes, I feel others, even shows on TV, is more than me. So paying attention to how people are communicating, how people feel is absolutely important. Empathy. Anthony, you're right on point. Empathy. So growth is not rejection. No, growth is evolution. It's a natural part. So growth is a part of the process. But this thing called emotional intelligence, it just really literally means understanding your emotions. Now, some people may very well have what we refer to as limited emotional intelligence, right? Limited emotional awareness that leads to reaction, miscommunication, and even relational harm. So how do we handle rejection? Those become the real life questions. Can you tell when the room, the image or the mood in the room has shifted? This is part of it, right? So we understand that if people don't have a degree of emotional intelligence, then here comes the emotional blindness, poor conflict resolution, right? Poor inability when we come to this, to even recognize the challenges that our own may or our children may go through. And so we have to pay attention to understanding this thing called emotional intelligence and how it literally shows up in our relationships. So this is a very important part of all that what we do here. So building that emotional intelligence, right? Part of it is teaching what I call an emotional vocabulary. And here's what I mean. If I put anger on a scale of 1 to 10, and I ask, how do you know you're becoming angry physically? What happens to your body? Here's what I understand. For some of us, the more angry we become, it shows up in our body language. Well, that's on anger on a scale of 1 to 10. But if I take emotions and put it on a scale of 1 to 10, then here's what I'm going to tell you. The more emotional we become, we go from being logical to illogical. We go from being reasonable to unreasonable. We go from being rational to irrational. Right. And so understanding our emotions and what happens when we become more emotional because of that lack of emotional intelligence, then here comes the emotional vocabulary. So what is that? Now it's marked by what? Significant language change. You cussing, you name calling, you bringing up old shit, you saying things that are designed to hurt people. So we have to understand that emotional intelligence. This is the Dr. Jill White Show. You all, I'm going to tell you all as I move through these again, I'm going to invite you to go to my YouTube channel, Instagram, as well as here TikTok, the Dr. Jill White Show. You all, my podcast, my interviews that I'm doing, you all join in and take a look at what we're doing here. It's like the TikTok doc. I'm trying to bring this to you and ultimately getting people to go to counseling and the relationships. This is how I strengthen families. This is how I strengthen marriages. And this is how I strengthen relationships. So y'all get somebody on to tune into that, right? Anthony says, I can't get angry, curse, it acts stupid, learn that you learned that a few years ago. Yes, but some people, when they get emotional, that emotional vocabulary kicks in. They start name calling and bringing all those things. So we have to teach that emotional vocabulary. We have to use reflection and journaling. Sometimes, y'all, we have to just kind of pause because we can say something to someone, and when we lack emotional intelligence, we can say something to someone and not even realize that what you said, y'all listen to what I'm saying, what you said and what they heard can be two separate things. All right. What you said and what they heard can be two separate things. And that's where a lot of the issues show up, because when people become, when their level of emotion begins to increase, they don't realize that what they're saying in that moment may be a little bit more impactful or may have come across the wrong way. And you have no earthly idea that what you said or how you said it impacted someone completely different from the way you intended. I'm Dr. Jill White Show. Y'all click, like, subscribe to my YouTube channel. Again, I'm kind of pushing this. So we're dealing with right now emotional intelligence, right? And then model emotional regulation in group settings. You know, watching your words. I like that. Watch your words. What you say is very powerful. And y'all write this down. I've always said that the tongue is more deadlier than the gun. The tongue is more deadlier than the gun, because you can say something out of high emotions that you can't take back, you can't undo. There's some of us that as grown men and grown women right now, we remember something that was very damaging that was said, that we heard in our childhood. There's some things that we've heard, we've adapted, and we've even passed on to the next generation. So that tongue something can be said, can have multiple generational implications. And so it becomes important that we are mindful of how we communicate. So I want us to improve in that area, improve our communication, our being emotionally in tune, and learn the art of listening. So as far as I'm going to go here on this one here, and this is my favorite one that I'm going to offer up to you. This is number 5. We pick up the next ones next week. But number 5, knowing the right way and that there's a right way and the wrong way to be wrong, right? That means owning what you've done without excuses. You can speak with anger. Yes, you can speak with anger. Absolutely. But you have to temper your tone. Again, it has everything to do with, y'all listen, when we're communicating with someone, what is the goal? For them to understand or for you to win? What's the goal? Which is more important, to be right or to be understood? There's my question right there. Which is more important, to be right or to be understood? You all, this is important. And those of you who've been married 30, 40 years, you exactly know where I'm coming from. But let me ask y'all, here's the question. Which is more important in a relationship and communicating, to be right or to be understood? What do you think? To be right or to be understood? Hopefully that we say yes, to be understood. But here's the problem. Some of us, we behave as if we demand to be right. So in all thy getting, we get understanding. So, but there is a right and a wrong way to be wrong. So let me explain what I mean by that. If you are wrong, you acknowledge that you're wrong. But here's the wrong way to be wrong. Let me start here. It goes like this. Here's my role play. Yeah, I know I'm wrong, but what about the shit you do? No, if I'm wrong, let's just throw it all out. So now all of a sudden, you have taken being wrong, and which you were wrong, but you've hijacked the situation, and now you flipped it because now you have created a scenario that says the prerequisite for acknowledging that you were wrong was to pull up and recognize and identify something that the person who was correcting you has done wrong. That's the wrong way to be wrong, right? And yes, B, that is manipulation. That's part of a defense mechanism that people do here. Anthony, accountability. Now y'all gonna see why I got accountability on there. But the manipulation is just that. Another wrong way to be wrong is that you then shifted. Well, I was wrong on this, but what about this shit here? No, we're gonna talk about it. What about when you did this? So now that emotional parts begins to escalate. And now the conflict begins to escalate. Why? Just like dealing with correction, connecting that correction with the wrong way to be wrong. But the right way to be wrong is simply to receive it. Yes, it's part of deflecting. It's manipulation. These are all the ego protection things that people do. And the problem is that you cannot grow in that. If no one can come and correct you, it becomes problematic. If you are wrong and now your response to being so wrong is so intense that now people say, you know what? Anthony asked, you know what? I'm just going to let his ass do what he's going to do. So now they've taken the position that you try to help them, but it becomes problematic. So the wrong way to be wrong is that you intensify the situation. But the right way, and this is what I'm offering up to you all as I end this one, the right way to be wrong has everything. And let me say that again, absolutely everything with these points here. Number one, teach repair over defense. If you have wronged someone, then you have to understand how you have to focus on repairing it, receive it, and do the work that needs to be done there. And Anthony said, my ex-wife may be a narcissist, right? I don't know for sure, but I understand. I got you, Anthony. You go to the Portia Bruner show. I did an episode on Portia Bruner show that dealt with the question of, are you a narcissist? I will tell you this, you all, that individuals who have mastered the wrong way to be wrong, yes, that's all part of that character trait. They have learned the art of deflection. They have learned the art of shifting because that part of them is underdeveloped. So recommendations, teach repair over defense. Number two, emphasize impact over intent, right? And number three, practice apology without restitution. And I'm going to offer that up as an important one there. And then if we do this, trust is repaired, and we began to teach the notion of stronger family bonds. So this is very important. So today, you all, we covered the first 5 of these 9 emotional non-negotiables here. The first, I said, dealing with rejection. Second, I said, dealing with correction. Number 3, emotional pressure. 4, emotional intelligence. So we touching, and then 5, the right way and the wrong way to be wrong. I'm Dr. G.L. White, and this is the Dr. G.L. White, the TikTok doc coming to you all. We are going to hit the other 5 on next week, and I'm telling you, if you know someone who's struggling with taking responsibility, you know someone who has a difficulty accepting and taking accountability, if you all literally know someone who struggles with or lacks integrity or the absence of discernment, y'all bring them on next week, because these parts here of these non-negotiables, when I double back, I'm going to say, and these are some things that are important if you are in the dating phase or you're trying to get to know someone. These things, these characteristics I'm telling you all are also important. These are some things I'm telling you I want you to be intentional about integrating in your mentoring program, working with young people. Be intentional in terms of things that we got to make sure that even our children began to develop and understand. So these non-emotional, non-negotiables are critical in so many aspects and dynamics of our lives. So I'm Dr. Gary O. White, and this is the Dr. G.O. White Show. Again, welcome to my YouTube page. For those of you who are joining me, the Dr. G.O. White on TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, you all join in. I am getting lined up, my psychologist. I'm getting my therapist lined up. You all, I got some powerful guest speakers that are coming in. So you all like, subscribe, and share. Please like, subscribe, and share so we can build this up. We are going to create an opportunity to build strong families, build healthy relationships, strengthen marriages in the things that we're covering. That's my sole purpose of doing this, getting fathers and men to be stronger in that process. I close with this. I always say that if men bring peace to the house, the woman will convert the house into a home. Where there is no peace, there is no home. This is not to say a woman can't bring peace to the house. That's not to say a man can't turn a house into a home, but I'm offering these pieces up as absolutely critical characteristics in the work that we're doing. I'm Dr. Jill White. Thank you for tuning in. Y'all share with somebody on next week to join me, to be a part of this great discussion, to be a part of this great community, and to be a part of the work that I'm doing. So y'all join in. Once again, thank you all very much. And I will see each and every one of you on next week. You all take care.